Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the MDX Board meeting today, Friday, January 28th. And I know we're supposed to start at 9, but just running a little late. You know, when fog or cold weather happens in our great county, everything slows down tremendously. We're used to that bright sunshine, which hopefully in a little bit it'll come out. So with that said and done, if you could please stand. Of silence, and then followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And Commissioner Moss, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, as we do.
Pledge allegiance
To the United States of America, for which it stands, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, play ball.
Good morning. Board Member Fernandez.
Here.
Board Member Monestein. No. Board Member Smith-Fano. Secretary Miller. Treasurer Weinberg. Moss. Chair Diaz.
Here.
We have a quorum, sir.
You know, it's bad to be losing an ear. That thing echoed. Where's she at?
I thought I heard my name. I hope I didn't say it for so much.
That was done well. So with that, all members, well, one member missing, members are present, we have quorum. And at this point, I would like to open for, let's start off by, let me see, no, we don't have it.
Approving the agenda.
I thought we had to open for public comment before.
Yeah, we do. and it's item
Mr.
F.
Attorney?
Yeah.
Before we approve the agenda, do we have to open for public comment or after the approval?
No, I would do it afterwards.
Okay, so at this time, I need approval of the agenda.
Move it.
Okay, I have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. All right. Declaration of voting conflicts. Does anybody
Easily.
have a conflict in the voting situation? I gotta look at you. Sometimes, you know,
No. You're the chair. You
days.
take over. I work for you.
So, does anybody have a voting conflict at this time?
No, sir.
Looking around the dais, nobody has a voting conflict. So we move forward, and at this time, take citizens' comments. And here are the, thank you, Mrs. Secretary. Daniel Sabria, Sarabia, perdóname. Novo, man,
Jeff Novotny.
Navarro,
Novotny.
Navarro.
Novotny.
Doug, Jeff, I'm sorry, all right? So,
Before,
Michael Nash,
Chair, before she starts, we don't get too many, so I like to go over the rules.
I know, I
We
just-
give everybody 3 minutes. You
Say that
can't-
again?
We give everybody 3 minutes to speak, and you can't take 3 minutes and give it to your partner or anything else. So you get 3 minutes. Everybody gets 3 minutes, and Marty will time it.
okay. So with that, ma'am? And then,
morning.
I'm sorry, just, I got more names to read, but just get the next podium, the next person in line, and then the other one just jump back out as read. And I'll let you read the rest, since you know the names better than me. All right, ma'am, go ahead, please start.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and board members. My name is Danielle Sanabria, and I'm with LSM Partners, and our address is 801 Arthur Godfrey Road. I am here on behalf of OHLA USA as it pertains to Agenda Item 2A and the recommendation to find this proposal non-responsive. The agenda item also includes approval of the Technical Evaluation Committee's recommendation to select the highest ranked proposer. My ask today is simple. Do not find OHL non-responsive. Do not open those sealed envelopes with the Evaluation Committee scores and send this important matter back to the committee for oral presentations. By sending this matter back to committee for oral presentations, it gives the committee an opportunity to understand the solutions presented, and ask questions, and it gives OHL the opportunity to clarify its innovative yet responsive technical approach, which, by the way, offers MDX capital cost savings, an enhanced schedule, and lower maintenance costs over time. The non-responsive recommendation is based on a fundamental technical misunderstanding that we have not been able to explain because of the cone of silence. Quite simply, the RFP is a design-build project, not a design-bid-build. A design-build project invites proposers to submit innovative concepts and alternatives, which is the essence of a design-build project. OHL proposed an innovative concept that refines geometric alignments in order to eliminate the need for an additional new bridge that was contemplated but not required in the solicitation concept plans. It should also be noted that concept plans are defined in the RFP as reference documents for informational purposes only. They are not contract requirements. OHL is, however, delivering every project requirement outlined in the RFP's scope of work, and they're doing so in a way that saves you time and money and is specifically allowed under the RFP. If you proceed with approval of either part of this agenda item today, you immediately forfeit the right and the opportunity to accomplish this project cheaper and more efficiently. Put another way, you're immediately agreeing to pay more and take longer. Rather than doing that, what we are asking is simpler. And it's the only way within the cone of silence that we can explain to the committee why our approach is allowed, how it makes sense, and how it saves you time and money. There's no urgency to award this project today. All we are asking for is the opportunity to present our solution, answer questions, and explain our technical approach. We are confident that if given the opportunity, the agency will understand that the benefits and understand how it squarely fits within the RFP requirements. MDX wants innovation. It invited innovation. Do not penalize or exclude OHL for doing what the RFP invited them to do. I see I have a few seconds left, so since I think, I would just like to add that no one loses anything by sending this back for oral presentations. In fact, there's much more to gain, which is truly in the best interest of MDX and quite honestly warranted for a project of this magnitude. If after or at the end of the process, your attorney or technical advisor or committee has a different perspective, they don't like the design, or they don't agree, then so be it. But don't cut this process short and penalize OHL for innovation allowed under the RFP. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good morning, Board. My name is Jeff Novotny. I'm managing principal with American, where I've been a managing principal for over 25 years. We are the designer and the EOR for the OHLA team for the 836 Heft ramped connection design-build project. American has worked in Florida for more than 20 years with clients including FDOT and Florida's Turnpike. We have extensive experience designing numerous design-build projects ranging from $10 million to over $100 million. We strongly believe we followed the RFP document and that our design adheres to MDX, AASHTO, and FDOT design manual requirements. First, the spirit of design-build in the RFP is to inspire innovative solutions and does not preclude geometric improvements. In two different places, the RFP lists a project description which names the major elements of work on the job. Neither section describes this new ramp bridge over 127th Avenue as a scope requirement. RFP Section 9 allows horizontal and vertical refinement of the concept plans, provided the changes adhere to certain listed restrictions. These restrictions do not preclude the design-build team from eliminating the new bridge over 127th Avenue. The RFP concept plans depict the westbound entrance ramp as a one-lane ramp. Our design follows the same methodology. It's been suggested that our design did not follow AASHTO Section 10-53, which is a criteria for a two-lane entrance ramp. Our ramp design is a one-lane ramp, so the two-lane ramp criteria is not applicable. Our design meets or exceeds criteria for one-lane entrance ramps. Our innovative design shifts the flyover ramp, A to B, to the east. This provides adequate distance to join the general use ramps and merge into the main line of 836 in advance of 127th Street crossing, thereby eliminating the need for the bridge. This innovation also minimizes wetland impacts and moves the flyover bridge further away from the adjacent community. Our design carries and braids the flyover ramp over ramp E1 and D1, which is more desirable, meets driver expectations, and most importantly, adheres to criteria. For elements not meeting design criteria, variations should be required. The RFP requires we make all efforts to minimize design variations by eliminating the need for the new ramp bridge over 127th Avenue and shifting ramp A to B to merge on the right side of the general use ramps. Two design variations are avoided. Thank you. We ask the board consider this. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Nash, please. The next one is Juan Restrepo. If you can come up and be ready.
Good morning, board members. Michael Nash with Condote America. On the same agenda item 2A on the bid for the SR 836 Heft ramp. We are one of the competitors, and we believe that OHL did not follow the RFP, that the design for structures specifically call for a bridge over 127th, and during the question and answers of the bid process, it was clear that there was a bridge required over 127th Ave. So we believe that OHL should be deemed non-responsive to the bid. Thank you.
Good morning, board. Thanks for the opportunity to talk. My name is Juan Restrepo, and I am the practice lead for transportation for Stantec for the state of Florida. And I'm also the design build project manager for this project on behalf of the Condote Stantec design build team. I've been doing design build projects for the last 23 years, and several of them have been MDX projects. This is referring to the same agenda item and the TEC recommendation to disqualify the OHL team, and we are in favor of that recommendation. The RFP in this case was very clear that this project had to include that bridge over Northwest 127th. We followed the rules per the RFP. Addendum 2 included clear language that there was no alternative technical concepts included as part of this project. Some design builds included, but this did not. And we followed the rules. There was no alternatives to this design. Further, in Addendum 3, a question and answer came out that specifically called for a separate bridge structure to go over Northwest 127th, which we followed that rule to the T. So it would not be in the best interest of changing the rules to allow them to include less scope on this project to a disadvantage to the rest of the teams that follow the rules. Thank you for your recommendation.
Next is Walfrey Pedida, and then Alex Halley is on deck.
Good morning, members of the board. I'm here to speak about the same agenda item, the 836 MDX ramps. My name is Walfrey Pedida. I'm the founder of Pedida Highway Designers. We're on the Halley Engineering Construction team as the lead designer. I have over 30 years of experience now. I've done a lot of design build projects, many of them for MDX. I was the engineer of record for the 95 express lanes here in Miami between 836 and the Golden Glades interchange. I'm currently serving as a design director on the Signature Bridge on 395. It's an $800 million project which MDX is supporting. This procurement for MDX, and I've been involved in several projects with MDX, is no different. There's nothing unusual about it. It's the same RFP boilerplate that you guys have used time and time again, and it's designed to not give one team a competitive advantage against another team. As a matter of fact, eliminating the bridge at 127th is not so innovative. We had a concept that eliminates the bridge at 127th as well. But rather than take a risk and bid it, we said we followed the rules. The rules were very clear that a bridge at 127th was required. Addendum 3, the RFP, numerous citations where a bridge at 127th is required. So what did we do? We presented it as a CSI, which is called a cost savings initiative. And what we said was, we have this idea that after award, if our team is selected, we would present to MDX for consideration. And if MDX thought that it was a benefit to MDX, then we would give money back to MDX as a cost savings initiative. That's the way this boilerplate, the RFP, that's the way the rules were set up. We had eliminated the bridge at one, and we have a great concept. And if we're awarded, we'd like to present it to MDX for consideration. So I disagree that The RFP allowed for teams to just come in and eliminate stuff. That's what creates an unfair advantage for a team. We follow the rules, and we just want the board to please. And, besides, we spent a lot of resources. My company has spent a lot of time and invested a lot of resources into this pursuit. So to delay this award today and to have oral presentations, it's just more cost and it's unnecessary. Thank you.
Good morning. Alex Halley with Halley Engineering. I'm the Executive Vice President of Halley Engineering. I, too, agree with the TRC's recommendation to find OHL disqualified in the bid. And I just want to read one section of the RFP proposal where they kind of say they never referenced it or that there's innovative concepts that could have come in. Section 11.3, Structures Design Criteria. The design build firm shall incorporate the following into the design of the facility. Bridges F, ramp A to B, bridge over Northwest 127th Avenue. Shall, and that's all I want. That's all I like to say, because I do feel that they do have a competitive advantage if they take the bridge out compared to the Halley team as well as the Condote team. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last card we received is Ignacio Halley. Anybody else who wants to speak, please fill out a card and before we close.
Good morning, Board. My name is Ignacio Halley. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Halley Engineering. And I'm just going to reiterate a lot of things that were said. The OHL team says that they followed the RFP. Well, as Alex Halley just read to you, it says that the bridge shall be incorporated, not may be incorporated, shall be incorporated, okay? That's in the RFP. Then 2 different questions were asked in the process. The only way you could change an RFP is by issuing an addendum. 2 questions were asked in the addendum. Is an alternate technical proposal allowed? MDX responded, it is not allowed. Okay? We want this bridge. If later on you could convince us that this bridge is not necessary, well, we'll consider that, but base your base bid on putting this bridge in the contract. By considering OHL responsive, you may have a $6-7 million difference in the price of a bridge. You're not looking at apples to apples. That's like saying, hey, I want you to build me a tunnel under the Bear Cut, and I come in with a ferry system to ferry you back and forth. You're not looking at apples and apples. I think the technical review committee, I went to the meeting, and more so, the general engineering consultant did a tremendous job in recommending the non-responsiveness of the OHLA team because they didn't follow the rules. And 2 times they were told, in addendum number 2, we want the bridge. In addendum number 3, we want the bridge. And if later on you could convince us that the bridge is not necessary, we could take it out. So there is no doubt that the recommendation of the TRC should be non-responsive. And you have 2 very successful contractors, so you're still going to be reviewing a competitive price. Because it went in as 3 bidders, you're going to end up with 2, so you're going to end up with a competitive price one way or the other. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chairman, we haven't received any more speaker cards. Yeah, we have one more.
Anybody else at this time would like to speak? This is the time to do so. Please bring a card up.
Yeah, we have one more speaker, Gail Grady. Gail?
Hello, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to follow up. Gail Grady with American Consulting. And you've heard from our team, you've also heard from Condote, and you've heard from Halley. And we articulated very clearly that there were sections in the RFP that allowed us to do what we did in our design. We were very clear in providing innovation. We've provided a cost-effective measure. We have avoided some variances in our design. So I ask you to look at both sections. I mean, they've identified yet another section that they think it's required. We have identified sections in the RFP that say we were allowed to do what we did. So I'd like to ask for your consideration to follow up as we have requested, to let us again provide you some more technical follow-up in an oral presentation so that we can further describe what we've done that benefits MDX, it benefits the community adjacent to the project, and we appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Secretary Director?
There's no more speakers, Mr.
All right, with that, the public address time has been called at this time. I asked, and this will be the last time, anybody else would like to speak? All right, so with that, it is closed to the public at this time. Colleagues, I want to make sure that, in interest of time, I have a feeling we're going to have discussion, quite a bit of discussion, two items, items A and B, Section 2. And I also have item 5A, I think we need to discuss. I wanted to ask you if you have any items that you guys want to discuss, because if not, I'm going to ask to move the rest of the agenda. Joe?
One quick thing, Mr. Chair.
Put it closer to you, so you can-
On the thing that Maria Luisa sent out, and thank you to Chair, Board Member Weinberg, on the upcoming meetings, we were going to look at the possibility of perhaps staggering, sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon. If we could address that, I don't know if it's proper, if I could make a motion to accept the one that Maria Luisa sent out. That's the only thing that I'd like to add.
I don't see a problem with that. Does anybody else? have
It's
an
in the
issue?
blue folder. or-
Even though I like to get them out of the way early, but if
well-
it helps others,
Well, on a personal note, I have to take vacation time to be here in the morning, but
Got it.
I don't mind doing it. I've done it all these years. I just would find it a little bit easier. not
any
to
other
have to-
member have an issue? Vice Chairman Moss?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number D, I'd just like to, for us to have a very brief conversation. That's the maintenance contracts.
Which one, sir?
Item number D, 2D,
2D?
Yeah.
emergency contracts. I just want to make sure that we address the issue of making sure that MDX continues to be the standard bearer, if you will, as it relates to maintenance and aesthetics along our roadways.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I also have I just wanted to bring up, I have a conflict on one of the dates that are on the agenda for this calendar year. I don't mind the time frame to be later in the day. It's just for March 29, I will not be able to attend.
Okay.
Conflict, to see if we can think of possibly moving that date.
Okay,
So noted to the clerk and to the,
perfect.
that
We
you
can do
cannot
that.
attend due to a conflict.
And I also have another item that I did not see on the agenda. It's a discussion item, an update on the LED conversion. So
What
I would
item
like
is
to
that?
get an update from staff on where we are with that report.
We will do that at the end of the agenda without a problem.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Anybody else? All right. At this point, no, before, Charlie, you want to make your motion? Thank you. So I have a motion, and a second by the Vice Chairman. Anybody against that motion? Let the record reflect none. All right, I'm going to move the rest of the items that have not been stated. Madam Clerk, Mr. Attorney, did you guys get those items?
You're going to keep, what are you going to do?
It was 11, I'm
2A,
sorry.
you're gonna keep?
2A,
And
2B,
2B,
2D,
2D, or 2B?
and
Not the-
5A. And which one?
Everything else is moved.
It
yeah.
was B and D, correct?
Right.
2B and D?
Right.
B and D.
Everything on the agenda except items 2A, 2B, 2D as in David, and 5A are proposed to be moved and approved.
All right, so do I have a motion? Second. That moves, second by the Vice Chairman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
let's jump right into it. Item 2A. Mr. Attorney?
Yeah, item 2A, deem OHL USA proposal non-responsive and approve the tech recommendation to select the highest ranked proposer for MDX RFP contract 22-01, design build services for State Road A36, new Heft ramp connections. Could I guess I'll address it first.
All right. Mr. Executive Director, let's, I need something done. I don't know about you guys, but it's very hard to hear back here.
Let me ask.
Okay, is it just me, or? You know, I got one wheel missing, but, you know, but still, I have a really bad muffled hearing, and I want to make sure that we take care of this, and I understand this is probably happening for a long time. So, with that, I heard part of what you said, so if you could please get close, anybody that
Yeah.
speaks to the board, get close to the mic, and so we could hear you clearly.
And
I apologize.
enunciate.
Go ahead, Mr. Attorney, again, please.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Before you get a motion to discuss the first matter in the item, I would like to go over a couple issues with this item. My job here is to make sure the procurements are legally sound, and most importantly, that the procedure for the subject procurements are followed, and the proposers are working in a fair environment. Javier jokingly calls me the referee. This is extremely important because the first question of a judge is usually were the procurement procedures followed via procurement documents. Whatever.
It's really bad. You know, your words are important to us, Mr. Counsel.
Okay, I'll start over. Is that better?
Jesus, yeah. All right, check his microphone, guys.
Yeah, I
So,
think it's
okay.
been bad for years, but whatever.
Thank you.
That's my, okay. I'll start over. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we get to a motion to discuss the first matter in the item, I would like to go over a couple issues with this item. My job here is to make sure that the procurements are legally sound, and most importantly, that the procedure for the subject procurements are followed, and the bidders are bidding in a fair environment. This is extremely important because the first question from a judge is usually were the procurement procedures followed via the procurement documents. Following the procurement protocol is so important that there are cases where a government official was proven wrong in his analysis, but the procurement decision stood because the government entity followed their procurement procedures. Up to this point in the procurement, I can assure you that everything has been completed pursuant to the solicitation documents. The only decision for this board today is whether the board agrees with the text recommendation to find OHL USA non-responsive, and whether they approve the tech recommendation to award the contract to the highest ranked proposer, subject to price proposal analysis. And the second issue that I want to bring up is this item is going to be handled in a bifurcated manner. The first step would be a decision by whether or not you're going to agree with the tech recommendation to find OHL non-responsive. If you agree, procurement will process the remaining two bidders. If you do not agree, procurement will process the three bidders, and they will put it up on the screen for you. The second step would be the procurement. After procurement displays it, the tech recommendation was to award the contract to the highest ranked proposer pursuant to what was stated in the solicitation documents, subject to the price proposal. Any questions?
I'm
have
sure
staff
this
here.
board, I'm sure this board's got a lot of questions
I'm sure
to
they do,
ask.
but, okay.
So we're going to ask questions on the first bidder recommendation or denial, moving on to the next one. Could you clear that? I know we have to do a motion to move forward on this, but I want to make sure there might be questions asking before that motion is done. Once that motion is done, there should not be any questions.
Correct.
All right, so questions are acceptable on asking for the?
Yes.
Yes, we have everybody here, procurement. I have our tech, and Javier's been fully briefed, So any questions that you have?
Mr. Executive Director, you want to start out?
Yes, but, as customary for the last eon years, I take procurement very, very, very serious. And I've been, criticized for being sometimes very fair and not playing in gray, but procurement, you can't play in gray. If we make a recommendation on the agenda and we list it in the agenda item report, it's because it's been thoroughly reviewed by staff. We've consulted with council, and it's a recommendation to the board. The ultimate decider is the board, and we recognize that. I've asked staff to be here and prepared to respond to all the questions, whether they're procurement related or engineering related. This is one of those issues that is not about so much about, they missed a document or they missed a pre-qualification. This is an engineering issue. At the end of the day, this is an engineering issue, and I boil it down to fairness. It doesn't matter if there was many ideas to remove an element of the project. It really doesn't matter. If we asked for that element of the project, there was a reason we asked for it, and we wanted all three of the proposers to give it to us so it's a level playing field to make a decision. If any one of the proposers disagreed with that, they could have asked the question. They could have responded or asked for a clarification after they got responses. You've heard all of them speak. I have utmost respect for every single one of them that have spoken here. These are people that have made our state and our county much better as contractors, engineers, and so on and so forth. But this is, in my opinion, it is pretty straightforward. We asked for something. Two of the teams provided it. One of them didn't. We reviewed it, and I know that at the Technical Evaluation Committee, Mr. Chairman, that you were the oversight. There was a full discussion. I've heard the comments that, is this bridge really necessary? At this particular time, that is irrelevant, whether the bridge is necessary or not. The document said, give us the bridge so that it's a fair playing field to price it. And if you have any ideas, we said no alternative technical concepts. It's pretty clear there too. So from our perspective as staff, we stand with the recommendation. We're prepared to answer any questions the board may have. And then it's up to the board to decide. As far as competition, the prices are sealed. All three prices are sealed. The evaluations were all sealed. I also heard the comment that this issue might sway reviewers or so. Reviewers are reviewers. They've graded their proposals. Those scores are also sealed. So depending on the board's decision, we'll open up two of them, rank them, and open the prices to see who's the number one. And if you disagree with staff, then we'll open the three, and you will see it. Either way, our recommendation is what's in the agenda, and we stand by it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Executive Director. Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, Mr. Executive Director, you made several comments. For the record, the RFP required the bridge.
In multiple sections, sir.
Okay. Alternative proposals were not allowed.
No, sir.
And a competitive price advantage could result if one set of proposals are proposing the bridge and another proposer is not proposing the bridge. Is that correct?
Yes, that is true. That is correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. With that, am I right?
Thank you, Mr.
Attorney,
Chair.
Go ahead. Member Fernandez.
So I know there's been some statements made on technical misunderstanding versus what is required from the procurement. And again, this is an engineering issue. This is not so much a procurement issue. So I'm going to ask some questions. I don't know, Javier, if it would be to you or Juan, who prepared the engineering guidelines.
Okay.
It would be Gil. Gil Portella.
Juan and Gil.
We're part of the technical evaluation committee, so if Gil, if you may, come to the podium.
Could you please make it to this, podium? Who was the other one? Juan?
It's
No, it
Gil,
would be
Mr.
Gil.
Portella.
Okay.
It's Mr.
Mr.
Portella.
Portella.
He's our
All right.
technical
Good morning.
representative on this project.
Good morning. So I understand how design builds are prepared, and I know there's always a requirement from an engineering perspective on what we want to see, right, on the design build package.
That is correct.
What exactly was stated? I know it's mentioned that it was in several parts of the document, so I just want to know exactly the thought process behind requiring the two bridges from an engineering perspective.
The thought process when we were developing the technical documents was that the geometry of the entire interchange required merging of many lanes into one final merge on the westbound 836. To do that, we needed a separate bridge because there's simply not enough room to merge all those lanes before you get to northwest 127th. So that was a technical premise of the RFP. In addition to that, a question was asked, is a bridge required, because it was, there could be several different types of questions regarding the bridge. We clearly said in addendum 3, a separate structure is required for the bridge over northwest 127th. The reason being, MDX did not want a widening of the existing bridge. But MDX was for sure saying we need a wider area to merge all these lanes. We either do it with a widening or do it with a separate bridge. But you can't do it with either of those. You cannot merge all those lanes before you get to 127th. That is the premise of the technical proposal.
And under the RFP it's mentioned about allowed innovation. What was the intent of that?
There's different kinds of innovations. One is the Atc process. That is a process where before the price proposals are in, MDX can sit with the individual consultants, and then the individual consultant can come in and present their concept, and we, MDX, say yes or no. If we say yes, then they can propose it in their technical proposal and eventually in their price proposal. There was another mention of a CSI. A CSI is a different animal. A CSI is upon award of the contract. A design builder can say, by the way, MDX, I have a different idea from what you required in the proposal. That idea has to have certain elements.
Gil.
If we can, and please forgive us, but even though I stayed in Holiday Inn Express yesterday, I am not an engineer.
I'm sorry.
Some people here are not engineers. If you could make it a little bit more understanding
Yes.
for us, more laymen.
You've reprimanded
there's a
me
couple
before
that are.
Yes, you've reprimanded me.
Some of us understand.
Yes, you've already reprimanded me a couple of times on that, yes, I understand.
If I may, specifically acronyms.
Yeah.
Like, we know what some of those acronyms are, but the members of the public who are now tuning in live
Okay,
and the members of the
so
might
basically
not,
speaking, we
spell
had an
out.
RFP.
No acronyms.
But
that
yes.
we had an RFP that required a bridge, and the bridge was not proposed on this proposer's technical proposal. They could have prepared a proposal with a bridge on it and then submit it later on, if awarded the contract, the different idea. But in this case, this solicitation document did not allow that.
But the document allowed for innovation. So I just want to be clear on what was the intent. So when we talk about ATC, right, the acronyms, I know what that is, but if you can explain to this board what an ATC is and what's this innovative concept that we allowed per the RFP.
Okay. ATC is an alternative technical concept. That is a concept that a design build firm looks at while they're doing their technical proposal. And then MDX says, we agree or we don't agree. If we agree, then they would continue their technical proposal based on that concept.
Okay, so did they submit an ATC prior to us saying yes or no?
It was clear in the solicitation documents and in the addendum that ATCs in this procurement were not allowed. The reason being is that this procurement is tied very closely to Turnpike and the Turnpike ongoing ramps. So we could not open it up to just start redesigning the entire interchange.
Okay. Carlos?
Well, I just wanted to follow up on I speak a little engineering, and innovation is a very broad topic. I mean, it's not just the bridge, it's means and methods, it's, changing everything. So innovation is a very broad term. So it's not innovation specifically for that one area. It's innovations across the whole proposal.
Right, and I think the reason why I'm trying to point this out is because there seems to be this idea of there's this technical misunderstanding, but it's very clear, right? It was stated in the RFP what's required. Yes, there may be room for innovation, but they still would have to get approval from staff, right, in order to proceed with this innovative concept.
That is correct.
Right, and then what I hear is that the addendum, not only number 3, I believe number 2, it was mentioned that you shall build a bridge, so that was clarified, not once, but twice from MDX staff, right?
Addendum 2 did not allow ATCs. Addendum 3 required a bridge over 127th.
And I am aware that in design builds, typically when we are going to change a concept, which probably requires variances to the AASHTO, which is the green book, is something us engineers have to abide by. There's variances allowed, but typically that's done after. Whoever it's awarded and they come up with an innovative concept, if it can be done, if it can be approved, then it can go through that variance process after the fact. That's typically how I've seen it. So it's not, right, it's not guaranteed. They can propose it, but you have to make it fair for everyone because there's a cost associated with this. So everybody designed the same thing, and if you want to do something innovative after, then it's typically done after it's been awarded, from what I've seen. So, thank you. Thank you.
Madam Treasurer?
Yes, question on process, because yes, it is apparently an engineering issue, but if it's challenged, it's going to be based on a procurement issue. Last time our procurement was challenged, we're still dealing with that. And we take our procurement very seriously. Yes, I see Jackie Buitrago is here, our procurement director. Thank you for being here. In the questions and answer section of our process, a very serious, very detailed process part, did this item come up?
Yes, yes.
And how was it addressed?
The question was, in the addendum 3 is a separate bridge. The question was basically, if there's 2 bridges next to each other, what's the spacing? But the answer that MDX gave, to clear the ground floor for everyone, MDX said, there shall be a separate structure over 127th.
The answer was given.
The answer was given
And it was
in
clear.
addendum number 3.
Okay. So if I'm understanding correctly, we have our procurement process, very detailed process. We've done it a bunch of times, very successfully, very well, and very fair. I love that the public comment was right before this item was number 1, because coming from council sitting, as you hear an item, you open it up to the public and you hear comments. So I'm glad it happened right after, because we're not structured that way. So the comments are still very, very fresh. And I appreciate, I think this is the first time in a long time we've actually even had public comments. So it's very nice to see the involvement and the engagement from all 3 firms being concerned. And I hear and kind of agree with everybody in the fact that, yes, our procurement process and the RFP as written allows for innovation, but we're clear that there are limitations. And once Gail, you hit it on the nail, once we involve the fact that we are doing this along with the Turnpike, and we can't be deviating far too much because we do have a partner to consider, et cetera, then I'm, of course, inclined to follow the letter of the law as written on our procurement process, and there were means and methods available for that process. So while I appreciate OHL tremendously for the renovation, God knows I can certainly appreciate innovation in the world of construction, we all can. There was a process to present that, and it wasn't during the RFP, sadly, as I understand it, correctly?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. Member Fano?
Thank you very much. I am not an engineer, so my mind automatically goes to safety. So I ask you, Executive Director, could having only one bridge present
Yes.
a safety issue?
Yes, and I think it was addressed earlier about the AASHTO, that it complied with AASHTO and that a single-lane ramp versus dual-lane ramps and so on and so forth. You know, I am an engineer, and I looked at the roll plot that was presented. And my conclusion, in consultation with Gil Portella, who is also a professional engineer, is that the GOR at the location where this merge occurs is with a two-lane ramp. Therefore, a two-lane ramp criteria for merging it into the main line is what applies. What was submitted doesn't comply with that, okay? I understand the explanation they gave. I challenged staff because I made that argument at the beginning, but I am comfortable that the recommendation we've made is the right recommendation. It complies with all of the criteria, and it was fair and open to all of them if they needed clarification.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, I've heard the questions also. Questions are very good questions, and based on the testimony that was brought up by several of the different people that came forth and gave their testimony before, I sat in the Technical Evaluation Committee. I thought the process was followed correctly and properly. I did not see anything that would show otherwise. Besides that, staff has been doing this and looking at different angles of this now, and as said by our treasurer, for a long time, and they take it very serious when it comes to procurement. And that's something that's important to me, and I know to this board. So at this time, I heard the address of the two alternatives that were asked for, and it was clarified and it's very specific. I do feel that the recommendation of staff should move forward at this time, unless anybody else has anything else to say on that. And then when somebody's ready, I will entertain a motion. The item has been moved by the Vice Chairman, second by our Treasurer. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Mr. Executive Director.
Mr. Chairman and board members, at this point, I'm going to ask Jackie Butraga to tally this, to open the technical evaluation proposal scores and the price proposal, to put it on the spreadsheet as customary. While she's doing that, we can proceed in the agenda. When she's done, we can come back to it, and then you can take up the second item for approval, which would be the highest selected ranked proposer.
All right.
Okay.
So at this time,
We can
as
just
stated, to tally those items, do we still go to item
we can go to item number
2B,
2B.
or do we take a break?
We can go to item 2B and come back to finalize 2A.
So with that, item 2B, Mr. Attorney. Sorry, you're going to lose weight today, up and down, man.
Yeah, yeah, change the microphone because that,
Maybe that'll work.
Item 2B.
Yes.
Approval of tech recommendation award contract to number one ranked proposer for CAI services for new State Road 836 Heft ramp connections for MDX RFQ contract 2201.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Mr. Executive Director?
yes, this was the request for qualifications for the CEI professional services contract for the project that we just finished discussing. 4 teams submitted their request for their qualifications and their proposals. The Technical Evaluating Committee met on January 21st and ranked the proposers. The rankings are attached to your agenda packet, and the ranking has Gannett Fleming as the highest ranked proposer, and staff is recommending, and the Technical Evaluation Committee recommends, to select the number one ranked proposer, Gannett Fleming, and authorize staff to negotiate and enter into a contract not to exceed the amount of $4,768,600.
Move 2B.
I have a motion by the Vice Chairman, second by Member Fano. Anybody, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? None. That was fast. Did you get it tallied up real fast? No, I know. All right. So
I think we'll get a little bit more time with 2D.
I got it. Item 2D.
2D. Approval. Oops. No, that was going in now. Approval of renewal and extensions of emergency contracts for MDX Contract 2203 and approval to advertise task-specific contracts for asset maintenance services. Mr.
That-
Toledo.
Is there Executive Director?
Yes, sir. I'd like to pass it on to Mr. Juan Toledo, who will explain this item. Go ahead, Juan.
Well, since we're still tallying the scores and stuff, I'll have a little bit of time to get into the history of this. So, in October 22nd, Friday of last year, DBI, D'Angelo Brother Inc., which was our asset maintenance contractor, declared bankruptcy at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and basically shut their doors and halted all services on not only the MDX contract, but on all their statewide and several nationwide contracts that they had, basically leaving everyone in the lurch. That forced us to have to scramble to see how we're going to keep maintaining our roads and public safety with that service being dropped. We immediately engaged the surety on the performance bond, and working with them, they, in the immediate, they cannot respond to the immediate need that we had. So in coordination with the surety, we went out and we procured 11 emergency contracts to handle the most critical of the services on our roads, from guardrail repairs, asphalt repairs, anything that happens on a critical nature, to cleaning, sweeping, mowing, the whole gamut, and even janitorial services. So, we took a contract that had about 30 or so tasks, and we took the 11 of those, of the most critical, to be able to make sure that the system keeps running and that we're preserving public safety. In parallel, we were continuing to work with the surety to see how they were going to make us whole with the contract. We wanted to do that because we had the performance bond, and we didn't want to lose any of our rights if we started interjecting our own process into that. We needed to make sure that we were that we were held whole by the performance bond. The surety engaged in their own procurement of the contract to see if they can bring a contractor on board to replace DBI. Ultimately, what they ended up doing was a process that violated our terms of the original contract. Hence, we could not assign a contract that didn't have the exact same terms and prices that we had already gone out to competitively. So we were forced to do two things: either grab the asset maintenance contract that we had and go out back on the street and reprocure that, or do what we're going to be recommending right now, which is break out the asset maintenance contract into several. And the reason we are recommending this is because during the 1.5 or 2 year period where we were kind of in a state of we didn't have a board and we had to do things a little bit differently, we had these emergency contracts out there and we had to manage them and keep the system running. And then during this 3-month period where the DBI had gone bankrupt, we did the same thing. And what we realized is that we had better control over these tasks and services, and we also found that we had cost efficiencies that we can take advantage of. So just to address the cost efficiencies, one of the things that we've seen immediately is that just by doing it this method, we've done a quick and dirty calculation, and on the low side, we're looking at about a $100,000 to $150,000 a month saving by going this route. That translates to close to $1.5 million to $2 million a year of savings on our operation budget. And one of the things that we can do with that savings is enhance the performance of the services that we have out there, such as sweeping, cleaning, things that catch the public eye. Well, now we have an ability to maybe do a little bit more of that to make sure that we don't have that periodic clump of debris on the wrong side of the road, the things that people notice, the things that we take pride in making sure that we maintain in our system. As we move forward, we're going to be looking at the overall services that were provided by the asset maintenance contract. And as part of our breaking out the contract, we're going to be lumping some of the services. So again, sweeping, mowing, landscaping, that'll probably be one contract. Guardrail, fence will be another contract, just as an example. But we're looking at about 11 or 13 contracts that we're going to be putting out that would basically make up the entire gamut of what we had before. Another advantage of doing it this way is that we don't fall into the same scenario that we just experienced in October. One balloon contract goes under, and we're scrambling for 30 different services. This allows us to make sure that if something goes wrong with one of 13, it's easy to make that and fix that problem, and we still have the rest of the system up and running. This gives us better measures that our system is always going to be protected, and we don't have, as Board Member Fano said yesterday when we briefed her, we don't have all of our eggs in one basket. I think that's the one of the lessons learned here, and one of the things that will make the agency perform a lot better. So our request today is to extend or to exercise 3 one-month renewals on the 11 emergency contracts, and also extend the emergency contracts until we get the new procurements issued notice to proceed on the new contracts. We're anticipating that that'll take an additional 3 months, more or less. So we're looking at a overall 6-month extension of the emergency contracts, and then an approval to advertise all these task-specific contracts so that we can get the system back to where we need it and all the contracts in place.
All right, thank you. Vice Chairman Moss.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I wanted us to just take a minute to discuss this item because I want us to always keep our eyes on being the standard bearer when it comes down to how clean and well-maintained our roadways are. And I say that because you can see in many other parts of the community where there's a problem with litter and trash and just a bad look, that conveys something not so nice to visitors and to our community. As the founder of the Community Image Advisory Board for the county, which was later Neat Streets, that was always something, that we looked at, and MDX always stood out as being a shining star as it relates to how our roadways should be maintained throughout the entire county. And that went down, and I knew when you took on DBI because we would do these sparkle tours. And the sparkle tours, we take the Convention and Visitors Bureau before, we'd have major events coming to town. And we go through all the roadways, looking at them, grading them, and then, asking, the various agencies to pull their weight and do their part in terms of cleaning up and making sure things look well. And DBI was always a problem, So, I'm happy to support what's being proposed here. I like the idea of being able to enhance certain services because as a part of our conversation, I talked about the fact that, on the shoulders where we're now running our buses, you have a litter, there that, in my opinion, can become a real safety hazard, and it's not a good look. And we need to make sure that we're on that 24/7 with a lot of sweeping and cleaning up and doing those kinds of things, because that makes a difference. When people come to our community, the very first things that they see are roadways. Flying to the airport, whatever hotel they may be going to, that's the first thing that they see. And that makes a statement, about who we are as a community. Because that's one of the first things I look at anytime, when I was flying before COVID. Anytime I would go someplace else, and we need, again, to always keep our eye on the ball. Maybe we don't do as many projects, but we got to make sure that what we have, that we maintain the aesthetics. The lighting on 826, 836 needs to be, reinstalled. The lighting on the 874 overpass needs to come about. Those are the types of things that really make a difference and create an iconic image, if you will, in our community and to those who are visiting our community. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be glad to support the item and to move item number 2D.
I'll accept that as a motion, and I think there's a second, but I know, I'll second it. But I have some comments too, but I'll allow, who wants to go first? All
You want-
all right.
Thank you, Mr.
Member
Chair.
Fernandez, you go first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you, Vice Chair, for those comments. Coming from someone that does maintenance for the whole county, and we're talking about 30,000 lights, 3,000 signals, potholes, drainage, canals. It's refreshing to hear this. I think it gives opportunities also to our small businesses for them to do what they do best, and to compartmentalize the assets is important. And I think the most important comment from this, we become more proactive and not reactive. You know, I live in that every single day. It's the phone call. I have, graffiti in the back of the wall, or I have a dirty street or a pothole. And the fact that we're able to access these contracts and have savings, I think will make us better at being more proactive than reactive. And people appreciate that. People don't like to say, you only go out there just because I call. So I think this enables us to do more. So I appreciate that.
Treasurer Weinberg?
So now everybody knows to call Board Member Fernandez when they see anything wrong on the county. You just out it yourself. Caution. Two things that had me very, very excited about this item. Number one is the ability and the competence of our staff to, unfortunately, we had to be reactive on this particular matter because, boom, a bomb was dropped on a Friday, 5 o'clock. This company no longer exists. What do we do? And our staff stepped up to the plate and delivered very, very quickly. We also saw in item H, which we passed as a consent item, Faneuil declared bankrupt, got bought out. We had no clue that they were being bought out. So now we're in a contract with a completely different entity. So we've gone through two major changes, and the reason it excited me, as negative as it could have been, is that we were quick to react and react appropriately, but it also gives us experience for next time, God forbid. We're not exempt from this potentially happening again with some of the contracts we dish out. Companies go bankrupt, companies get dissolved, companies get bought out. So kudos to staff and everyone for stepping up so quickly. The second thing that got me really excited about this big corporation going bankrupt, I mean, I'm not excited that they went bankrupt, but us losing that contract, is that now we have 11 smaller contracts. And my immediate question to Javier when we were going over our briefing was, does this have a positive impact on small businesses? Because immediately my brain thought of when we take up like big contracts to award, like when we were building the Port Miami Tunnel, Brickell City Center, we would take big contracts and instead split them out and spread the wealth. This is how I saw it. I saw it as us spreading the wealth. And we got into a whole conversation on small business. Now that those contracts are smaller, Juan, does our small business requirement remain, even though, I mean, small business is the one putting in, then they meet 100%, rather than our 10, or how are we working that? That's one question, and then I have another question.
So for the most part, I believe that our small business requirements and local business requirements are going to remain. There may be one or two of the task-specific contracts, because of their specialities, may not fall under the small business program or local business because of the work. But what we're going to do is that as all these contracts have to come back to the board for approval, at that time, I will lay out all the parameters of that contract, and you'll see where you have the small business and what the percentages are going to be. And if we can't meet our goal, or we can't meet any one of those parameters, I will explain exactly why it is and present it to the board for approval.
I want us to keep a real close eye on that.
We're going to meet those goals.
So that was one good thing I thought coming out of a negative, a potentially negative that came out for us. And then the other thing that brought to mind, being that these are emergency contracts, was the emergency response of our roadway system. So I asked Javier to ask staff to put together a sort of monthly stat on how we do with these responses, because I see our road rangers when I drive our beautiful roadways. And yes, Vice Chair Moss, you're correct. The only time I've ever seen any little bit of debris is on the bus side. And I've called Javier a couple of times from the roadway saying, hey, off of by 57th on 836 is a little bit of debris. So I wanted to perhaps get some of those stats, if we can get that together, because I think we're very proud of our emergency response. The friends of mine who don't complain about tolls until I explain what tolls are good for, have nothing but compliments to say, that have actually ended up having to use our emergency response system. So we're very proud of that as well. So I would like to see some of the stats. So that's it. That's my comments. Kudos and thank you.
Did you want to add something, Executive Director?
We hear
Okay.
you, and we'll put the report together and share with the board the statistics of the Traffic Management Center. I know that Juan, maybe from the top of his head, can tell you, but I think there's more there's more to it than just the response of a road ranger. I think it's the types of things that we do on the highway and the value that we provide our toll payers on our system. So we will prepare those reports on a monthly basis.
Thank you. Member Fano?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to echo my fellow board members on the staff's immediate and efficient and cost-effective approach to these emergencies. Let it go on record. I mean, they are shining stars. So thank you.
And with that, I do agree with the comments of my colleagues. It is important that these emergency contracts are just that, emergency contracts, and they need to be moved immediately, and the right companies need to be put in place so that could happen. This went into a very difficult situation when that particular contract faced bankruptcy, and it has put us in a very awkward spot. Those buses, by the way, I call those my red lanes, because I fought for that for, what is it now, 18 years to finally get it to be done. Nothing goes fast sometimes, but anyways, with that, Vice Chairman Moss is 100% correct. We have to do this with not only an emergency method of whatever takes place in this community, but also to always keep our eye on our community as a whole, as MDX has done, to try to always have the best managed expressways anywhere. And I support that comment because as I've seen that always be the case. With that said and done, I also understand that our citizens need the quality of the service, and that's been provided by MDX. Even through the hardest moments, it was still done. But once again, we need to adjust certain things. I have seen the red lanes, as I call them, with a lot of debris on them. And those buses that do travel that lane don't have much given space. And the drivers that do drive are very talented and very qualified. And we do not need to add to them having to sway out and sway in due to certain debris, which happens even overnight with blown tires, situations. So that sweeping is a must. But again, as to the contract as a whole and the way this is looked at in procedure-wise, I totally agree as we do this, and interchangeable companies as needed. The county has done this in the past for quite a bit of time, and it's worked out. And I think that it'll continue to work out with what's been presented to us and the adjustments. So I appreciate it, Juan.
So much.
Okay, so wholeheartedly. So do I have I had a motion by the Vice Chairman. Second was, I think, Member Fano, or we could put several seconds here. Okay, Treasurer Weinberg. All right, so with that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None.
Mr. Chairman, we're ready to show the results of item 2A and then take up the second part of that motion, which is to approve the highest-ranked proposer. And in the meantime, if I can ask Mr. Ahamil to start getting ready for the presentation, that'll be right after that.
Okay, so with that, Madam Clerk,
Jackie?
or who's doing it?
I'm doing it. He's uploading the results on the screen, and I'll read them out.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead. Okay, so the number one ranked proposer is Halley Engineering Contractors, Inc., with an adjusted score of 46,792.48. And number two is Condotti America, LLC,
Price?
with 55,652.60. I will be uploading these results on the MDX website by the end of the day today.
All right.
Yes.
Could you repeat those numbers one more time, please?
Okay, number one, with an adjusted score of 46,792.48, and which is Halley Engineering Contractors, Inc. And number two, the number two ranked is Condori America LLC with an adjusted score of 55,652.60. I will be uploading this on the MDX website today, and this is subject to compliance proposal bid analysis.
Yes, board members, the recommendation is to award to Halley Contractors, Engineering Contractors. I would like to point out that we still have to do a price proposal bid analysis like is customary, but the price that's being proposed, the $41,723,298, is below the engineer's estimate that MDX provided, which was $45.3 million.
That's always good. All right, so do I have a motion? Motion by the Vice Chairman, second by Treasurer Weinberg. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. All right, so with that,
Mr. Ahamil.
Mr.
Luisa
We
Hamil.
got that presentation ready?
Item 5A, Luisa Hamil with our general engineering consultant. He's going to make a presentation on the Kendall Parkway and the opportunities, and I will let him tee it up. And I think this is something that's very important for this board and for this community as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
And while he's preparing, board members, thank you on the emergency contracts because you were there to respond immediately when I needed, authorization to move forward. So you give us kudos as staff, but without your support, we can't get it done. So thank you. Okay.
Good morning, members of the board, and to the public, and to everybody that's listening. My name is Louis Ahamil. I'm with Bermejo Ahamil and Partners, and part of the general engineering consulting team with HNTV. So we're very happy. I'm very happy to make this presentation. This is a project that the Kendall Parkway, I think all of you up there understand how important this project is for the community. When this project was first introduced as part of the MDX's long-range plan, it was back in 2003. And at that time, we were well aware of the implications, the benefits, the concerns, the opportunities that would be raised. But that process was a process in which the board fully participated. It was a very participatory process in choosing all of these projects and sifting through a variety of projects, trying to fit where could MDX contribute to the transportation and mobility needs of the community. And without a doubt, this came out as the most highly ranked project of the group. And we looked everywhere throughout the county to find so here we are, literally 19 years later, with the project moving, and we're going to enter one of the most critical parts of the planning itself. So to date, the concept has been developed in general. The initial PD&E has been finished, and now starts the plan of developing the detailed vision so that the project can move forward towards our execution. Today, we want to talk about that vision, how to mold it, how to think about the project, the opportunities, and most importantly, how it can all come together as a positive project that is embraced by all. After all, this is a project, the sole purpose is to improve the quality of life of hundreds of thousands of people that live in the Kendall, South Dade area and West Dade area. It's not about development, it's not about expansion, it is about improving that quality of life. And I think it's a common goal that a lot of people can embrace and move forward to it. Because quality of life embraces mobility, embraces open space, it embraces the environment. And that's going to be the theme moving forward. So the next phase of the work is pretty exciting, detailed planning of the parkway itself. And I want to walk you through, if you indulge me a minute, a little bit of history, because obviously age gives us an ability to look back and see what things worked and what didn't. So if you live in South Dade, this is a project, and I would say it's not a project, it is the project of critical importance. It could be one of the most important projects in all of Dade County. Yet, although it is predominantly embraced by most people, there's still some people that question it. And today, we want to take this process to work through those issues and come back with a win-win for everybody. So MDX has done a good job of highlighting the transportation improvements, the evacuation improvements, how we can deal with urban expansion or prevent from a further urban expansion, and all the safeguards to be built. But there's still issues that have been raised about, are we encouraging more growth? Are we hindering Everglades restoration? Should the money be spent on transit? And that's what this presentation is all about. And the reality is that the next phase of planning of the Parkway is the most important part of the work. It's where we are going to come up with that vision that you can sell, even the branding of the facility. So it's more than just a roadway. It is really a community asset, an environmental asset. So the challenge is, how can we turn this transportation mobility plan into something that is geared up towards the quality, improving quality of life for the area, to at the same time protect the Everglades, enhance the neighborhoods, and encourage the right type of development that we want in that area. We think that through this planning process, we can create this win-win strategy. It's a win-win for the community, it is a win-win for the environment and for the Everglades. To do that, we really have to come up with a one-of-a-kind project. This is not just a roadway with a trail running alongside. It's more than that. And through this process, we need to make sure that people understand the value that the project brings. And that by bringing those diverse people together, the citizens that care about the community, the environmentalists that care about the environment, people that care about open space, people that care about sports, and bring them all together, we're creating such a powerful, powerful project that is going to be a legacy for the rest of Dade County's history. So the real challenge that we have is putting those words into action, is to get through this process, people to start creatively and critically thinking about solutions so that we don't have any unintended consequences, to be practical, to just go beyond what in vogue, that, old thinking, and put new thinking to create something new. And understand that the whole idea that you hear a lot is that, oh, we did this here, so it has to be here. No, the county's so diverse, one solution doesn't fit all. This is a very unique solution for that. To do that, this process has to be very transparent, credible, and it has to break the mold. We have to find. So let me go back and say, why is there even any negative? How did roads get such a bad reputation? And when Metro Rail, for those of you who were around when Metro Rail was started in the 70s, at that point, after that point, the words highway became code for urban sprawl and growth development. Anytime, whether it was an arterial, you're creating growth, this is not it. Growth is there, it happened, it already is there. At that time, we almost promised that Metro Rail would go through all over the county, and therefore nobody would need a car in the future. Well, the reality's not. So, but highways even go back a little bit further back. When you think about creation of the interstate system, there's not a single project in the history of the United States that has crafted urban life more than this system. There's not a single major city that's not on the system. That's incredible to think that every single urban area was created. And to create that vision, we now fully understand all of the damage, collateral damage that were done, destroying a lot of the urban neighborhoods, because for the sections like I-95 and so forth, and really encouraging urban sprawl in many ways, which is what we did. Miami was no exception. These are the pictures of I-95 going through downtown Miami. So ever since Metro Rail, we have been focusing on that negative side of the road. Roads are bad, roads are bad, roads are bad. So how did Kendall get here in the first place? And how do we get into the whole thing? What's sort of interesting when you look at the history of transit, this is what we want, transit is what we want. Transit was originally built by private developers for the purpose of selling real estate and encouraging urban sprawl. That was it. They were all privately run when there were streetcars and so forth, including Coral Gables, and you see the picture of Coral. It was only after the roads got so clogged up that we started putting tunnels in order to get transit through. The private sector says, well, we can't afford that. And it became a government function. And even then, in New York, what they would do, the government would pay for the tunnels, but the private companies then leased the tunnel itself and ran their subway lines. Then came post-World War II. All the people came in, cars were available, urban sprawl, Levittown, all those things, and we created suburbia. You're going to have your home and your yard. That became transit, then became impossible at that point. There's too low a density, yet we thought we could do it, and it was no longer profitable. And then 1970s, when the federal government started funding 50% of the programs, and Dade County, Miami was one of the 5 systems that were built along with San Francisco, Washington, Atlanta, Miami, and Baltimore. The interesting part is that when you start a system, you continue on the system. We stopped. We built one line, Hialeah to Dadeland, and it took 30 years before we built the next line. Washington did not, for example. They built their system. But it's totally, totally different. Back then, Miami was growing up. I think for all of you that were here in the 70s and 80s, and we had titles for what we wanted Miami to be, the capital of America, the Magic City, New World Center. All of these titles were thrown around. And the reality is what we wanted to be is we wanted to grow. Miami embraced growth. We were looking for people. You know, we were becoming multicultural. We looked up to cities like New York, Paris, London, Hong Kong. What was missing? Schools, museums, art, culture. We had to have a metro system. It's clear. Decade of progress came, and that was a visionary move by the county in '72. And what did we get? Culture, parks, facilities, the zoo, Metro Rail and Metro Mover. And we were going to focus on transit to solve our problems. So interestingly enough, when you go back and look at the land use plans, and this took a while to get, in 1960, this was the county's first shot at a land use plan in which it began to define both an urban boundary, but look at the list of expressways that were on that plan. There were probably more. I just went through the plan. There are expressways that you can see it, Midway, Featherhead Expressway, the North-South Expressway, the Douglas Road Expressways, Tamiami Expressways. We had expressways everywhere. And at that point, Kendall was designated as a state or low density. And that's a close-up of that plan. We jumped, we passed the decade of progress. Every single expressway was removed from the land use plan except those that were already left to be behind, which was 874 and Gratigny. That's it. But the tragic part is the corridors were removed from the plan. So we were going to rely on transit, but we left no corridors. Well, all that land was privately owned. So development moved in. Those corridors got taken over, they got built over, and densities were increased. And if you look at the plan, densities were really increased. So we all know what happened after Metro Rail opened. It was based on one issue, and one issue only. We're moving people to downtown Miami where the center of employment was. That's what a downtown was supposed to be. That was the vision, the magic city. Well, we know now that cities haven't grown up that way, and certainly our downtown hasn't grown that way. So that's why we put Metro Mover in the first place. So we opened up, the ridership level weren't there, bad publicity, public opinion shifted, and we were left with 30 years of no additional growth in the transit, and we were left with no new roads. And our population of South Florida grew from 3 million to 6 million from all of the standard. So this is a close-up of South Dade in the pre-transit line. All of those lines were expressways. This is what we have today, which is a plan that you will notice densities are darker, there are no more expressways, and all we then went to rely on arterial roadways for transportation. So we hit the trifecta. We increased the density, we removed all roads and corridors, and we never built a transit. And we got Kendall. So what is Kendall today? It is an area of humongous population growth that it went through. It's pretty stabilized now, but that's where the growth occurred. It's a bedroom community with no defined downtown. It is slowly trying to get to that, but people really still have to commute in and out of the area. It has some of the longest commutes, and it was a collection of PUDs. PUDs, planned unit development. So what was a PUD? A PUD is something that the county and every city in the United States encouraged. We actually gave density bonuses. If you came in with, if you bought a big piece of land and you did a PUD, you got 10% more. So why wouldn't it? Every one of those projects, the hammocks, the crossings, Kendall Lakes, every one of them was PUDs. And PUDs were self-enclosed. Now that we criticize it because there's no roads going through it. You relied on the perimeter roads to be able to get in and out of your PUD. And this is a lesson. We got what we wanted. Government at that time said, this is good. People delivered. So regulations and thinking go a long way. So what happens when you get a PUD? You get Kendall and South Dade, and also, for that matter, West Broward and many parts of the United States. So we ended up relying on a system that was designed for surveying. The section line roads are no more than a survey system that was created by Thomas Jefferson so that we could divide into township and ranges, which are a mile by a mile, so that you could sell land. Most cities and governments basically defaulted to that and said, we're going to create a standard. So a section line road is a major arterial in Dade County, is 100-foot right-of-way. A half section is a 75-foot right-of-way. So we have a survey system that is defined, actually, if you really want to, the center of the townships and range goes right through Tallahassee. That's 0-0. And so all of our streets are defined by some point that somebody put in Tallahassee. And it doesn't matter if you got rivers or anything going across. That's what we ended up with our transportation systems. How can you make it work? You know, it doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? We also did put the urban boundary line, and that's a fantastic tool that the county has used. And despite you hear that the urban boundary line is moved or not moved, it really hasn't moved that much. It has controlled, the county has done an incredible job, and the planners are controlling it. That's a picture 1985 of Kendall, between Kendall and 8th Street. And this is coming up slowly. It's a picture 36 years later of what is moved. The two things to notice, even though the urban boundary line in this area moved a mile to the west, from Chrome, a mile to the east, the county has used that for correctional, and the state and others for correctional facilities, but more importantly, it's being used for rock mining. Because at one point, sitting on several boards of the state, that was viewed as a positive way of controlling growth. You won't jump into the Everglades on the other side if we put a gigantic lake. So what we got left is this sandwich between the Miller, what's called now the Bird Dry Basin, between what's left of development and what's left of all of these rock mines that are there. So the reality today is Kendall, this is not a land play anymore. It's built out. People are living there. They're not interconnected. We can't go in there and reinvent the grid. We don't have the ability to run and ramage a huge corridor throughout. And the zoning is established. So that was the whole thinking behind the entire corridor. But we also felt that that corridor had that other responsibility of being able to be a steward of the environment and a steward to those neighbors. So going forward, when people say, don't put a road because it encourages development, we have to find a way of moving beyond that. Because if we can align the goals of folks that are environmentally minded, that want the open space, and the community that wants mobility, what a powerful idea. And when you think about all of these fat, and you go looking back and you call them fat ideas, there was one time in land use, before BUD, was we're going to all live in satellite cities. I'm going to take a high-speed train to Miami. I remember that was the original sales for the high-speed train. You can live in Clewiston and drive to, and take your train. You're in a half hour, you're in your office. So these things have changed. We don't have a downtown as an employment center anymore. So the ability to move around is important. So first question that we need to make sure that we address through this next planning, will the Parkway stimulate development? Not if we don't want it, and we don't. We understand that. In fact, where we want to stimulate development is the mode that people say, let's give us more transit. Well, where are we stimulating development? Around the transit station. That's what we wanted. I mean, the county is now, every single station, in South Dade for sure, has 30, 40, 50-story buildings being raised around that. So if you want to talk about what stimulates development, transit does. It gives you more capacity. But that's what we wanted. Another example that everybody will quote is when I-75 was built north through Broward County. At that point, and this picture is from 1985, the county had already zoned all that property to be developed. The Weston was already a planned unit development, a DRI had been approved, and they had done all the trade-offs between lands at that point. When you put I-75, what happened? In 36 years, the entire area got built out. But that's what they wanted. But all you have to do is cross across to the Sawgrass Expressway. This is the same picture, the same time, 1986, the Sawgrass was built. 36 years later, this is what you got. And to provide, did it jump? Did it stimulate development? No. It filled out whatever was left, those pockets that was left. So it is clear that both through design, regulatory, water management, all of these things come together, you can create a parkway that works. So it's a great words, but we have to put them into a plan of some sort going forward. So where we have to rely is that the project has a lot of support. Everybody that lives in that area, it's just, incredible support. But there's a lot of concerns. We need to resolve those concerns, and we need to build additional support. So there's 3 underpinnings to the project. It's not just the roadway. It is a community-driven project in that the roadway can afford that area many things that it doesn't have today. Access to open space, parks where possible, trails, bikeways, sports, even tourism. We can create something that's so unique there that people will want to come in and see it. Obviously, it's going to be a transportation corridor with hubs where people can drive their car, drop them off, and then a straight, perfect shot if they want to go to downtown Miami or into the center part of the city. And finally, it can be designed to preserve the environment, to enhance the environment, and to engage the public in that experience of the environment. What's very exciting is that you can put these 3 pillars together, and you can put those 3 groups to agree that this is a good project. What a powerful combination. If I'm the environmental group, I want to make sure that I build public support, because that's what environmentalism is all about, engaging people. So the realities of life in Kendall is that to date, most people live in Kendall, come from the east, go to the east. That's the way that the traffic is set up and yet they don't have the open space and the parks that they should have with the densities there. They're sitting right next to the biggest open space that we have in Dade County, and the scenic opportunities. So I think the common ground between environmental movement and the transportation movement is that the environmental movement thrives when it has strong public support. It dies without it. I've been on boards of environmental groups. That's what makes the group strong and powerful. We have to align the 2 groups. One way is that we make the highway we make the highway a way of showcasing the Everglades. What a better way, when you think about who has the most highways from an environmental sense at the line, it's the National Park Service. Parkways were invented by the National Park Service. And what's striking is that when you drive through those areas, there's no way you'd say, I'm going to develop a roadway, I'm going to develop a hotel next to it. No, everybody becomes a preservationist, a conversion. So that's what we need to do with Kendall Parkway, that it becomes our final buffer, but our engagement with the public. Once people experience, if we design it correctly, they'll be invested in the future, and they will be the best friends of the environment. How can we do it? We have to showcase the environment. Part of the project should highlight the scenic beauty, create opportunities to interact with the Everglades, which is just a few miles away. So it's more than the trail and so forth, more than just a linear bikeway. It could have so much more built into it that people will say, wow, this is an incredible opportunity. So the opportunities are great. This corridor that will go along, and these, I'm putting circles here, just a schematic, I'm not putting, and we look at communities, activities. We could have recreation scattered throughout the facilities. There could be neighborhood parks when you're near Kendall. There could be environmental parks in another part. Besides jogging and bike and all of these things. We have the mobility with hubs so that we basically allow people, they don't have to take their car all the way in, and a multimodal center. And finally, environmental areas, which will involved with both design of the parkway, environmental preservation areas. Water management is critical in how the difference between the Everglades and the non-Everglades, it's all about water management and how high the water gets and so forth. And then the ability of interpretive centers. So we have such incredible opportunities that if we don't build it into the project, we'd be missing the opportunity of a lifetime. So the next phase of planning for the next 6 months, what we want to do is First of all, there's already been an agreement reached between the county and MDX as to guidelines. We want to build upon that, and the team has been working on it. But now we have to engage the many diverse groups that would play a role in that vision, to create the vision, to brand the vision. You know, if anything that the underline did was great, they branded that thing. You know, they picked up on the High Line in New York and they branded the underline, and it became something that people fell in love and build up. Whatever that eventually that comes out, we have to brand it and we have to sell it and then develop that backbone for the plan. And to do that, we need engagement, first of all, from you all, without a doubt, because you're the policymakers, you're the direct line to the citizens. But then the technical groups, other governmental community, neighbors, special interest, tourism, environmentalists, everybody has to play a role in this. So history tells us that one solution won't fit all, that we have to come up with our unique solution. We want to break out of this invoke thinking so that we can prevent unintended consequences. Good actions later prove out to be the wrong place. And we need to align everybody's interests, create the tsunami of support that this project will then be looked at as a model. So putting the puzzle together is the trail and the parkway all are inextricably tied together. This is an incredible opportunity going forward, and the goal is a win-win for all. So thank you for that. Wanted to share the presentation. Javier wanted to make sure that we can share with you what our thinking was at the moment before we then put the plan to start the engagement and the planning process forward. Thank you.
Actually, I want to thank you, Mr. Ahiman. That was probably the best presentation I've witnessed in a very, very, very long time. It is very thorough. It showed the history. It showed the need. It showed the conservativeness. It showed the sensitivity. I'm very impressed with this presentation, and I thank you because I think you touched every single point that needed to be touched, and also looking at what could be done in a sensitive manner, respecting everybody in our community, but yet showing the great necessity of need of such a project. So with that, I think I was knocked out right here. Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I agree with you. That was a tremendous presentation. I think it laid out all of the challenges, but it also laid out all of the vision and the possibilities, for the future and creating a win-win situation for this community. And one of the things that I hope that after this is done, and I'm going to say that I'm hoping that it's done, that we find a way to tie the Parkway into the 874 extension, which then goes to the Palmetto, which then goes to 836, which then goes to the Kendall Parkway. And we create a beltway, in this particular, community. And again, I think like the underline, there is, as you stated, there's a way to create something that would be iconic and something that would bring people, to come and see, while also creating and addressing some of the needs that we have, in the community. And we know how to build in sensitive areas. You got the Miami Trail, you got I-75, you got Sawgrass, you got all of these roadways that have basically been built, in the past. And we can do this. We can do this. It's something that obviously the community wants and needs. And I'm excited about us getting started, and moving the process along. And again, I think that your presentation this morning created a lot of clarity that perhaps has been missing for some, as, we've gone through this particular process. But it's a great presentation, and I look forward to us getting started.
All right. Madam Treasurer?
Luis, it's so nice to see you back here. I have missed your presentations. I was not expecting a history lesson, so thank you for that. That is very exciting to see the growth and how roadway suddenly became a bad word unintendedly, and et cetera. So thank you for that. I especially enjoyed your graphic explanation of I-75 versus what happened in the Sawgrass, and how we can control it, and because that has been one of the oppositions, the potential development that will be drawn if we build the Kendall Parkway. Needless to say, this is our baby right now. And I couldn't help but, as you're mentioning, especially the slide that had the hubs and the rec centers, et cetera, going back to our conversations in 2014-15 when we convened the committee for our strategic plan, our strategic vision, our 15-year plan, and we had that long table here in the center, and you just took off on compiling all of our thoughts at the time, where we discussed this mini mix and these potential hubs and how we could incorporate greenery into some of our expressways. And here we are, 6, 7 years later, and we're managing to do it on one project. We're doing all those things that we were thinking about back in 2003, like you mentioned, and throughout the service of this agency, and in 15 when we convened, trying to see strategic planning for the next 15 years, and here we are today, and it's actually happening. So I am especially excited. You're looking for direction from this board. I think your presentation shows that you have the direction. I don't think any of us disagree with anything that was on here. It sounds to me like the Kendall Parkway is gonna be built the community's way. So that's your tagline right there. Kendall Parkway, we built it your way. We're talking about walking, cycling, hiking, alligator watching, if one of your photos is correct.
Oh, yeah, you got a marketing side, I like it.
Yes, I love the component of having this be a go-to destination. When I travel around the country, or on U.S., abroad I like to walk around, but around the U.S., I love to just plug in the city and pop up the things to do. And a lot of those things tend to be trails. I'm not a hiker by any means, but I do love to go just to go see, and specifically in the Northwest, you walk around and it's okay, it's a trail, but they publicize the heck out of it and it draws the community in, outsiders. So now I'm seeing our potential, the potential, and that it could actually be something that I would go visit and be like, oh, wow, rather than go, oh, okay, it's a trail. Here we have a chance to set the standard, as my colleagues mentioned earlier, not only for our highway system, but now it's the MDX Trail. Yes, I said it. It's the MDX Trail. And we finally get to have a project where, kudos, hey, we're really, really helping move not only mobility and traffic flow, but now we're also allowing the community to have a go-to space, open, greenery, fresh air, et cetera, walk your dog. So needless to say, this is truly the jewel of MDX. I know back in 15, I talked about a Northeast corridor, which is often neglected, but I am very happy to see that our Southern corridor in Miami-Dade County is getting what it deserves, what it needs. This community has been longing for this, and here we are about to make it happen. So that is your direction, I think, from this board, is this entire presentation. You nailed all our thoughts correctly. And let's join the National Park Services with their trails. Thank you so much, Liz.
Like that one.
You did it your way. You nailed it. So thank you so much. So MDX Trail, we built it your way.
Every word that I've heard from you all, and you, Luz, have been here for a long time, went into this, so.
Board Member Fernandez, followed by Board Member Fowler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, as many of you know, I come with an extensive traffic background, so I can talk for days about how beneficial this is for our community. And I actually grew up in West Kendall, so I can tell you I have driven and sat in traffic for many, many hours in my younger years. And I think I like the concept of how we're branding this to also include the park community and what can we do as more of a trail than people looking at MDX as building another expressway. This is beneficial, and like I say, being in traffic takes away time from our families and our personal lives, which I think this is an improvement to our quality life, not only from a time perspective, but also greenery and being able to enjoy a roadway that is going to look very different than what we're used to seeing. And I think selling that is something very important to the community, because that's a part that's always been missing. I get a lot of complaints. There's traffic. There's a community that's built. I can't get through. We need to build more roads and more roads and more roads, and it comes to a point that we can't do that. Traffic calming is something I deal with every single day. And I tell people, at some point, these roads are meant to function a certain way, but if we don't start building these networks that go outside of these communities, our arterials and section lines and half section are not going to be able to handle not even 10 years from now. You know, forget about 20 years. We're talking about the immediate future. More people are moving to Miami, as we all know. So this is something that is going to help. You know, that, like you said, it's the planning from the earlier years, which I appreciate that you put that up there, because a lot of people are not aware of how our zoning has been handled, or planning, and it's been piecemealed at some point, right, back in a couple decades ago. And I think that's impacted us to be where we're at today. So we're trying to find a innovative solution, and I think having this is amazing, because I don't believe any expressway in Dade County, well, we're not going to call it an expressway, but trail or roadway looks like something like this. I've traveled, you know, the Northwest area, many parts of our country, and I've seen many two-lane roads that are beautiful. You know, you have, you know, scenery, landscaping, and it doesn't have to look like, oh, we're just building some other expressway to bring more traffic. So I think this was a beautiful presentation. I had never seen it put this way, and I appreciate that. Kudos to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board Member Fano?
Thank you. I'm going to echo everything they said. Much
Thank you.
appreciated.
Well, it's, one of the things that's very important is that last part, a couple of things. I mean, all of it is extremely important, especially the history part. I would like to see probably this presentation in the County Commission, and I would like to see this presentation in the TPO. I think it will do a lot of good, a lot of questions that could be looked at and answered real fast by this presentation. You know, yesterday I was dealing with some military issues as a military liaison of the county, and I was out in the middle of the glades checking something out. And I realized when I saw the amount of land, that sensitive land, that was taken up by the expansion of just trying to build a bridge for supposed free flow of water in our Everglades on A Street. That bridge took up a lot of sensitive wetland that was destroyed, real sensitive wetland. And I heard no complaints about that. And I think you understand exactly where I'm coming from. And that's a shame, because it's if you're going to try to look at every angle of a negative, then apply it. Don't pick and choose which negative you want. And that's where this presentation comes in so strong. And I am totally supportive of this project, as I have been for a long time. And, you know, Board Member Fernandez, that lives in the area, said it very clearly. We've suffered through, you know, growing up and dealing with this for a long time, but the way you presented it is excellent, because people have to get a clear understanding that it's all cumbersome and properly looked at and done on every angle that it could be done. And that, those pictures of the park system, I think really expresses what we're trying to do. So it's important. Thank you once again, Mr. Executive Director.
You know, nobody leaves me speechless. Louis, you know, there's not much to add. This is, you know, I've been fortunate in my career to be involved with some transformative projects that'll change communities, whether it's the Port Tunnel or the MIC or, you know, fixing US 1 going to the Keys. This is a transformative project in this community. And I was confident when we were doing the PD&E, the NEPA study, that there was a win-win-win. But I also understand that when we create documents and develop documents, most of it is two-dimensional. They're just steps that we have to follow. And what Louis is doing is he's making it three-dimensional. He's bringing life to it. And I think this is going to be, you know, this is going to be the hallmark of the Miami-Dade Expressway Authority for generations to come, and I am looking forward to see it open. So, you know, thank you, board members.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Treasurer.
A question for our Deputy Director, Juan Toledo, I believe. Your previous presentation on the Kendall Parkway talked about the phasing of the project and the breakout of the awards the contracts, would the trail then follow along that same breakout of the facing? Or are we looking to have one continuous?
No, right now, we're projecting that the trail will follow the phasing. And in fact, it would probably go, because of the complexities and building, it will probably go with the mainline construction. So as the mainline gets built, the trail will get built per the appropriate phase. And as Louis mentioned, all the features that are being identified along the corridor will be part of each respective phase.
One of the key things I want to add to the trail, as a former cyclist and maybe soon to be again, at least I'm going to try, but the width of that trail is very important. Some people run, some people walk, some people cycle, and some people like to cycle with their family. The picture of the Everglades and the road that most people take out there is apparent to that. So even we want that wildlife to be able to enjoy also the area. So that's just something to us, and as we look at this, and I know you have, and Mr. Executive Director, this project is extremely important to you, and for many years, as it's been to all of us. But just that part of recreation and stuff, the buy-in that we'll have in our community, like the underline as mentioned before, it's incredible. And that looping and attaching to the future, to our roadways, to me, is a must. And in most communities you go out there, that beltway is always highlighted for those reasons. So thank you. Do we have anything else to add on the report?
On this report, no. I have an executive director's report for you
No, I
today.
know you do. But before we go,
Just the update on the LED conversion.
Yes.
If Juan
Please,
can come up.
Juan, if you can.
thank you once again, Louis.
Thank you. And a quick update, in September, we discussed through one of the items that we brought up about the LED conversion. At that time, Board Member Fernandez requested that we put together a little review or study of how that conversion was going to impact our overall savings. We were looking at different ways of doing that with, right now we pay current flat rates with FPL. We're going to look at the differences between paying flat rate and going maybe to meters on the system. So we're still in the process of putting that together. We're about 95% complete on the report, but as I mentioned to Board Member Fernandez earlier this week, that we're having issues with FPL being cooperative on giving us the information we need to finalize the report. But she felt that, we wanted to give you guys an update because I did promise that we're going to have that report ready by January, and unfortunately, I don't have it ready yet, but I will have it ready for next month.
Thank you, Juan. So, Mr. Director, I don't know how we can pressure FPL. We are on a timeline, so we don't have, months to do this.
Yeah, I know people and I've made calls.
Okay, all right. Just making it clear, I don't, it can become cumbersome if we start waiting around, and we just need to apply a little pressure to get that information.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Executive Director, your report.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, Madam Treasurer, and board members, I've been called old-fashioned many times, especially by my girls, my daughters. And so I don't want to be old-fashioned. So I looked up a quote from a millennial influencer, and I'll read it to you. The discomfort we might experience with change is only a sign of imminent personal growth. And I've been thinking about this, okay? 15 years ago, I made a life-changing decision to leave a comfortable position at the Department of Transportation, where I was the Director of Transportation Systems Development, with a very clear path to one day be secretary, if that's what I wanted to do. And I was presented with an opportunity to come to an agency that I believed in. I remember when it was created, and I said it the day that I interviewed at this agency, that I believed in the model. The user finance model is the way of the future. When I was at the Department of Transportation, I've said this all over the world, actually. I never introduced myself at a public meeting as here I am, Javier Rodriguez, the Director of Transportation Systems and Production. I'm with the Department of Gasoline Taxes. We were always the Department of Transportation. Unfortunately, our industry, the toll industry, defines itself by the means that it collects its revenue to build its transportation. But I always believed in it. I made a life-changing decision to come here 15 years ago. It was the single most important decision I made in my life, and I am extremely proud of what we've accomplished the last 15 years. As I've told you, I've decided to retire from public service. I think the best years of MDX are ahead of us. I truly believe that change is necessary, and I also embrace it. I will always, always, always be a fan of MDX. I will always support the authority's mission. It's the way it conducts itself. I truly believe, and I've been fortunate the last 15 years to have an incredible senior staff, Steve, Marie, Juan, Carlos. I've had a staff that's been with me the whole time. I've had 9 chairmen, Mr. Chairman. I've had over 30. You're number 9, sir. I've had over 35, 40 board members. I've attended and presided over 140 board meetings and over 400 or 500 committee meetings, and I'm proud of what we've accomplished. I'm proud of what we have accomplished and where we are right now. And I think I can't say anything more than I'm stepping off at a time where look what's in front of us. And I'm excited for MDX. I have to thank you, Mr. Chairman, this board for your support, previous boards, previous chairmen and chairwomen, my staff. I already addressed my staff this week. All the different entities that have supported this agency, the chambers of commerce, the associations that deal with transportation that have welcomed us and view MDX as an innovative, progressive agency that delivers mobility efficiently. I leave it in good hands. I have made the commitment to you, Mr. Chairman, that I will be here through the transition. I look forward to the future. I have to thank my family, my wife, Catherine, Gadi, my daughters, Catherine Ann and Isabella, who were here. I mean, they were babies when they started here, and they've put up with me. They've put up with the challenges and the demands of this, and I love it, and I thank you, and I don't know what else to say other than thank you so much for the opportunity that you've given me, and I look forward to the next challenges, not only for this agency, but for myself, because at the end of the day, change is only a sign of imminent personal growth. So I look forward to learning and continuing to grow. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, board, and thank you to everybody that's helped me along the way.
Yeah. Actually, it's a bittersweet moment. I believe MDX would not be where MDX is today without your leadership. You are an incredible person, an incredible engineer, an incredible father, husband, and you can fill out all the blanks and have a check mark next to them. I met you 20-some-odd years ago in an argument. That argument was the state had their ruling, and they were coming down on a little city of Sweetwater on an issue, and we have flooding and things, and they sent you, and ever since then, I've admired you for your word, your talent, and your personal being. In life, there's many moments. There's moments that you, I believe, endure, that God lets you to live through and be able to grow with family, work, and then retirement. Some of us are facing it, some of us faced it just a year ago, and I'm gonna be in a worse place than you. I'm gonna be not as collective and calm as you. And I know somebody that had also this situation recently, and that was our vice chairman. It's hard to come to a time in your life, as you mentioned, 15 years, and you made a decision, and that was a bold decision, and that decision went well in your life, and well for all of us in Dade County due to your leadership. So to me, whatever God's winds take your sail, I think it's going to be incredible. But most of all, I appreciate when I asked you in this process coming forth of picking the next person, which I want to do this faster than other type of situations. I don't want this to go into a long-term thing, because you've also said that you're going to help out and be part of this. Mr. Attorney, do we need to do something to help and to extend and to make sure that he is part of this process? Because out of respect to him for fighting for so many years, I think it's important that we allow something like this to take place. Yeah. Take one more mic, Mr. Attorney.
Carlos, we're gonna start charging you for.
Yeah.
I've used 3 beds already. Test, okay. Yes, I think that we can extend his employment contract till the transition's done under the same terms. Is that something that you want to do? Javier, is that something you'll accept? Okay. Well, does anybody on the board have an issue with that? The board's on board. So it's unanimous. Do you want to make a motion?
Move it.
Second.
God, I like when you do that. I miss it on the day.
Yeah, I like that.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah. Now, my colleagues. Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And first of all, could your family please stand up? They're not here? Oh, okay. Oh, okay, they're watching. Okay.
Stand up.
Okay.
Stand up. Please.
Families in watching online.
Okay,
They're
okay.
standing, I'm sure.
But I want to say to them, thank you for allowing you to serve all of this time under some very difficult and challenging circumstances. If it had not, in my opinion, if it had not been for your leadership during the time that we have been under duress, for lack of a better word, I'm not so sure where this agency would be. Between you, our attorney, and the staff, operating, during those periods, show the kind of leadership and the caliber of fight to do what's right for this community. And you have been an outstanding leader at this agency. Anytime change comes about, you don't want to see it happen. When we had the conversation, I'm saying to myself, please don't say it so. But I understand, and I want to wish you well in the future, you and your family. We're still standing, I'm sure. And thank you, thank them, thank your staff for doing all of the good work that you've done in this community over the last 15 years. You have been a standard bearer in this community, and I appreciate it, and I know the community appreciates it. And wherever your next venture takes you, I know you're going to continue to be a part of this community and continue to create, an opportunity for all of us here to be better in the long run. So again, thank you for your service. Thank you to your family. Thank you to your staff. And we look forward to the next phase in your life. And while I'm sad to see you go, I'm happy for the opportunity that I'm sure it's created for you and for your family. So God bless and thank you.
Madam Treasurer.
Well, I don't think there's a person in this building who doesn't know how I feel about this agency overall. I think I've said it often enough. So I'm going to, and I can certainly echo Vice Chairman Moss' sentiments on your competence and the chair's comments on the agency being where it is today due to really you, especially at a time of turmoil. So I'll focus more on the personal nature, the personal relationship that we have developed, how I count you amongst my many, many mentors that I've had who have sadly been all male, other than my mother. You are right up there with the best of them, from my city manager at Aventura and bosses that I've had. Very good male mentors. Your work ethic, your savviness, your intellect, your engineering know-how, you've impressed me always. And you've been a friend. Even my year of hiatus, where I was not on this board, I'm coming now into this is my 9th year of service on this incredible board, having served with many very varied personalities, board members, and chairpersons, and you always kept your cool. That is one thing I tell Javier, and that he actually shares with all my male mentors, the ability to keep composure regardless of what's happening in the room. I wouldn't want to play poker with this guy, because he does not reveal a hand. And that's an incredible personality trait and quality that I think drove part of this agency's success through the last few years. And I learned from that, and I've absorbed that. And that's the personal nature of our friendship, what I take most, and your support over the years in my own personal growth and development. I love the quote, and I think it applies to us as an agency, of course. So there's imminent change with our leader at the helm leaving us. But think of all the potential exciting new growth that comes with it. And thank you. I was expecting no less for agreeing to remain on and guide us through the transition process, because this will not be an easy process for us. And we're not looking to fill those shoes, because, really, can't put the bar that high. But we can decide where, as an agency, as we go through this process, what it is that we are wanting to have to properly guide us over the next exciting phases. So thank you for offering that, and that goes to who you are, again. And I'm excited too for the process. It is bittersweet to lose someone so great, but now we have an opportunity to bring someone else on to continue the baton with this board's guidance and leadership and support, and the support of your supporting staff who have held your hand. And I'm sure you had those conversations with them this week, from Marie to Juan and Steve and Carlos, of course. So congratulations, Kathy, Isabella, and Kathy, Kathy Ann looking at home. Congratulations to you as well. You get your dad back, even if it's for a little bit till he goes on to whatever he wants to do. He'll be successful, even if it's to sit at home and watch Netflix for a few months, which you've certainly earned. So thank you, Javier, and we will continue our monthly lunches. We call it the chisme lunches, but we don't really do chismes. It's all about how we can continue to grow and develop not only our friendship, but also in our community. So thank you. I look forward to that.
Thank you. Board Member Fano.
Thank you, Chair. Javier, I could go on and on and on. Everybody's expressed beautiful things. Thank you for respectfully agreeing to disagree with me over the years. I was number 7, have been committee chair. Javier has always been there for me on a personal basis, on a professional basis. Thank you is not enough. I look forward to watching you continue to grow and see your path of success go on and on and on. I'm happy for your family. because they get you back in a different capacity, but I know you're going to be sinking your teeth into the next endeavor you go on to. But on behalf of myself, and I believe former board members, we all respect and honor you and wish you the very best today and always.
Thank you. Board Member Fernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Javier, I know I've been on this board now about 7-8 months. So I've worked with you on this side, not that long, but I can say I've known you for quite some time, probably about 20 years. When I started at FDOT, very, very young in my career, I was going to school full-time and also working at FDOT. And as a fellow engineer, I can say he is somebody that I've always looked up to. My father worked at FDOT for many years as well, so from that time, that era, these were our mentors, the people we looked up to of where we want to be, in the future. And I think you've done an amazing job, not only to myself, I could probably say for the community of engineers that have seen you grow into where you're at today. It's amazing, and it says a lot about you. Two things I could say that pop into my mind is that you're fair and you're honest. And when you're in government, as we all know, that's something very, very important. So I appreciate you. Thank you for your guidance through the years. We've worked together, even being at the county, you at MDX or vice versa at FDOT. And I have to say that, you are on the top. And as for leadership, you are somebody that I really, really, really admire. And to your family, congratulations to them. Temporarily, maybe, I don't know, where your next path may be. But they say you have no days off, right, once you retire. So thank you and congratulations on your next chapter in life.
Thank you, Board Member Fernandez. And I know the family's still standing. You can sit now if you want. This, again, it's a bittersweet moment. We will do something more formal later on. But this is just the intro to this, which caught me by shock too, and as I guess all of us. But at the same time, as you expedite this as fast as possible, I know you want to move into your retirement. If we need an agency to help you, I think, is that a problem on this board? I think that's not an issue, to make sure that we do find and do the proper procedure. But I do want this to move as fast as possible. I think that that will be the best thing for this agency. So with that, Mr. Attorney, we support whatever method that needs to be applied through an agency to help, maybe a third party or whatever, to help.
In pure Javier Rodriguez fashion, we've already got the paperwork. So we'll have that ready for you.
I don't know. I think it's your voice. Say it again.
I said, in pure Javier Rodriguez fashion, we've already got the paperwork. I mean, we ordered it, and we have it, and we'll adjust it, and definitely with all your input on what.
I'll tell you. All right. So with that, I guess once again want to thank you for everything you've done. You are a personal friend. So with that, anything else for the good of the order?
Well, we do have my treasurer's report. It's a one-sheeter, and I'll only say, Marie, correct me if I say it wrong. Look at the numbers speak for themselves. We have steady growth, so I'm very, very excited to get ourselves back to normal in full capacity. So the numbers are strong, and they'll only continue to get stronger. And Marie, anything you want to add? Thank you. We're good.
So with that, motion
I'm
to
sorry.
adjourn. Commissioner Moss? Second. All in favor, say aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you.